Here we are on Wednesday, 23rd of January 2019, officially since 23rd of November 2018. It's now, do my calculations, November, December, January. So it's 8, so it's, that's 4 weeks, 8. 12 weeks delay. So what's happened to the Constitution? It's reference statute law, Health and Social Care Statute Act 2012, section of that statute law 196. I should get my friend to look at. It's called Joint Needs Assessment. I haven't even got a completion of that previous so-called one-off offer of replacement social worker should know she did not have any experience in one's complex life disabilities one needs. There is a code of conduct, and this in statute law, executive and political individuals are meeting, public meeting today, setting the budget. Who the hell can get to a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning when you're bedbound? Anyway, they're all, if you didn't realise the Constitution, it is extremely heavy going reading. I'd like to know there's an accessible format, but the key area I'm looking at is their breach of duty of care, national statute law for all men and women in my situation, United Kingdom, in this area. I finally found a key area which they have breached the public servants and prevented my lawful right to access goods and services, leaving me at risk. Yet again. And I will be knowing why I am a target this way. Well, I already know that, but this is deliberate, linked up another contract they have. So this called joint, meaning contracts with NHS England Limited in one's area contracted services for health. Now that would mean in England, how it works is it's known as CCG, commission groups, just men and women, but public servants, civil servants. Yet, when my mate, short while ago, checked online the Constitution, the Northamptonshire Country Council Limited, by the way, it's a company, could not even comprehend how many directors of how many departments they have and how much they're being paid by the public, your hard-earned council taxes, and you're struggling to get by with families and people like myself. So, off the sick bed yesterday, tried to seek again. I know why they're refusing to respond, because they can't offer disabilities and adjustments in my home. So I was conditionally under duress only, tried to see, I wasn't sure on the hours, a certain place in a certain other public building, and I clocked their security and who they work for, and that was pure chance. And I found, unfortunately, that particular place, they share an office and rent it to a certain different subject another day. Anyway, it was absolutely pouring. The weather was diabolical yesterday. And I only sought clarification because certain individuals are blanking me deliberately to not respond, because they rather deal with easy, cheap, straightforward assessments of situations for people than people with high complex disability needs. Good gracious me, there's also online, my mate Jed, there is a change in, well, they're pushing it through the back door bloody quickly yet again. Statute law needs the consent of the governed, i.e. need consent of the man and woman, by the way, and how they're deliberately 12 weeks delay, deliberately not got back to the last breach of code. It's a code of practice, a code of conduct, actually. That public servant, civil servant, she breached her own code of employment status in a healthcare professional role, health, HCP, and this was deliberate on behalf of the individual that she works under in a certain company that's owned by Northamptonshire Country Uk Limited, but the public owns the company. But the shares, when we looked at the NHS Constitution, there are shares within LGSS Law Limited. It's a national company, and Northamptonshire County Council has shares. The public purse, the public owns those shares. Not one individual employed in Northamptonshire County Council has authority to make any profit out of the public purse, because the public is paying for those services. And they're meant to be employed to be in the best interest for the public purse in this area, and they're not. There's not all of these directors, and then these 151, they call it in statute law, officers, financial side of things, and it's known also as the Locusum Statute Law, Locusum Bill 2011. It all gets very complicated. You need to be either accountant or lawyer to get your head around it all. But the basic, straightforward stuff, I found out who is political. She is she's already unlawfully breached a code of conduct as a public figure in her job role as the new replacement of the board on adult health. I can't remember the title, I think it's a committee or something, but she's meant to be the political lead to hold those public civil servants accountable, and she's actually been negligent because she runs a private business on top, and she gets a public purse allowances for a job role. And it's not just her, it's actually the whole area, and nationally anyway. I'm not political, but she's absolutely made it a point to personally attack my private life and character. She's already been reported, but she gets her mates to cover up her tracks. So since my mates found this constitution, I'm going to go straight to the CEO, because there's a massive cover-up, breach of terms and conditions of goods and services, and in the timelines in the national statutory due process, and that is the Care Act 2014 as well. And that was implemented by the end of 2015, 16. Well, the pressures they keep calling this on nationally for all men and women, the cutbacks and services, is no need, because when one reads the Constitution and the contracts and the privatisation in adult care, PDF, as a PPI contract, private healthcare, private care companies are the ones, these corporations, national corporations, UK, are making profit, and especially Northamptonshire UK area is the PPI finance contract for care homes is Shaw Trust Limited, and that is public knowledge on Google Northamptonshire County Council. Go into procurement, or go and search on public documents, or go into section where it's got meeting section, and you'll find, very hard to find, but you eventually find the local constitution. Didn't know it existed until somebody else linked and did a post last week, and every town and city in the United Kingdom is meant to have the county councils, I believe the borough councils, are meant to have a constitution. That is a public's right to know what your rights are and to hold those accountable. So whether you get anywhere, that's another story. But they want people to give up. They want people to just go away, and they want to make profit out the misery of ordinary people. So it's a process, but if one wants to download, and wherever you live in the United Kingdom, download that information, because it all is important. If your personal life, you're not in a position, have your certain individuals around to support you, you're relying on the state statutory services. They're there to make sure nobody's put at risk. Well, the negligence comes in where they have breached your own constitution, and unfortunately, it's just unreal. I knew they had done something more, but I didn't know to such a scale how they've done this. And so I've got the evidence of fact, emails, paperwork, audio evidence, and this is just one area. So it is, it's nothing to do with this BS Brexit stuff going on. It's to do with deliberately creating by 2020 they call it in statute law, 2 unity councils. It's all profit, it's all commerce, it's all business, but yet at the expense of ordinary human individual lives. So God forbid you ever get ill, especially in this area, or you ever get disabled, don't ever come in this area, because you will not get what you need. So just reinstate Northamptonshire County Council, the Constitution, and once you get your head round a specific area, you can actually see the breakdown of all of the directors of each department. How much are they earning per year out of the council tax public purse, when people are starving, homeless, struggling to put food on their tables, going to food banks? It's all designed this way, and this area is worse in a way because it's conservative run. So you think one can go to, say, your local councillor or MP, think again, because they have their alliance to the national agenda, and a lot of people, they're just all the same, in my opinion anyway. But when you study law, contract law, as well as statutory law, any offer needs the individual's consent. Unfortunately, God forbid, if you end up getting ill and you can't verbally give consent, assumption will be taken. And be aware, because there are rushing through so-called House of Commons is the new, what's called as the Mental Health Statutory Act 2018, in that it's about care homes, so corporations running national care homes as a chain in UK, And in this area as well, Sure Trust has got a lot of the contracts and is public funded, and that care manager can make a decision whether or not that disabled, elderly individual, whatever the situation might be, whether or not they need to be deprived of their liberty, meaning their human rights taken away, and stay in that environment. So that is one to look into more. I'm not expert in it. I just come across a few important parts. If you don't sense something in a bigger scale is wrong in many areas, then I'm not here to go into it all, just a basic information, and for another to research if you care to do so. But the cuts is by design. Not just me, it's not just about me, it's others, similar position. And when you deliberately have a whole previous year of going through all the very detailed and complex, and I wouldn't want anything to go through what I've gone through, but their system of assessments meant to be offered, and you set your terms and conditions of offer, and it's not just what it's called again, this joint health and social care. That is just their heading and their documentation, but it's a bigger picture than that. So when one needs to be armed up to the teeth with information, not just relying on an individual in Northamptonshire County Council Limited to claim they know it, because if the individual at the front line side, say a social worker, have their caseload so high and pressure breathing down their neck by the line manager, it's not them you need to find out what's going on. It's the directors of departments. And then you got people above them. So at the end of it all, you've got a CEO, Teresa Grant, is public knowledge. How much on a CEO of Northamptonshire County Council is she making? And she's been paid by the public purse. She does not get in, nobody gets into that position in the public role by public. She's put there for a reason, as a public image, because it was all over the news last year, it still is, with the cutbacks, austerity measures they call it, but this is national, and they targeted this area as a national example, and that's always been the same for a while. But this important part of information, in my opinion anyway, is to look at your towns and cities throughout United Kingdom, where you live, and hold these individuals accountable. If you've got friends or family members, you've got time or whatever to find it all out. Every town and city has a constitution, a bit like the NHS. So the national NHS England, or Department of Health, for example, it has a constitution, NHS constitution. It's like when you look at what the constitution words means and definition of the word, you investigate what that really breaks down to. So it's like running of a business, really. Terms of reference. And the document is huge, by the way. In my area, this document's huge. There's no way I can read it all through. I just pick out the key point, which I think a lot of people in my position might want to know, and that is I'll repeat, it's Health and Social Care Statute Act 2012. The key area, which I'll get my mate to download later, is section 196, so that statute, and reference to my area on the Joint Needs Assessments in conjunction with SAR, the code they've used in the Constitution, on the joint needs assessment. So that is the care, so it's a health and care assessment. So it's not just about your personal care needs, it's occupational therapy, housing, health. It's a combination. So one social worker will not have the skills in, if you have a lot going on, you need a lot of support or whatever it may be, then one will be looked upon as complex and high care needs. That's a funding issue for them. The public purse in my area especially, they will not, and I must emphasise this, there is not going to be a quick remedy when they deem that your situation is expensive, highly complex, and there's a lot of other public funded, because it's not just independent. There isn't anything independent anymore in the area. So you've got like Citizens Advice, they got funding from the same county council, borough council. You start investigating and see the links. They're meant to be independent. And yesterday, give you one example what's going on. The subtle changes you start noticing is the little notes on like a wall in a civil servant building or a public building. We won't tolerate such and such and such, whatever wording. I've got a picture of the wording yesterday. And hold on. This is a public service. The public has a right. So what, they protecting the civil servants more than the public has their lawful rights? And the public is paying for the civil servants' wages. The public servants work for the people. It's not the opposite way around. And what I saw yesterday was complete opposite. So you just wherever you live, towns and cities, you observe things online, or if you go to public building and see how they treat in other public sector services and buildings, and just be aware before you verbally, or I would always recommend recording calls and paper trails, whether it's letters, whether it's emails. There's evidence to protect your loved ones, yourself. Therefore, gosh forbid, if it comes to it, you can relate back to that, which I've already done, even though it might not get anywhere, but at least you can know that you've been honourable and one has done the best one can. So therefore, God forbid, if you deteriorate or your loved one's a family member, you can sue for negligence and breach of the Constitution. You see, every town and city don't want bad publicity with a PR department, especially in my area. They have already breached the key element in the Constitution of Northamptonshire Country Council in my area via their civil servants and the civic department. I've got the evidence of this. So therefore, I don't use mainstream media. No point, because they just have a narrative the way they approach things. When you just go back to their own procedure and you use whatever statutory procedures they have, their complaints is a joke, by the way, but when you quote breach of the, approach it slightly differently, and you got the evidence of the breach of their own NHS Constitution, and specific, just a couple of sentences, how and word, then just see the head start rolling. Maybe, maybe not. In the sense of they need to investigate themselves to correct the wrong and to offer a remedy. And it needs to be a mutual offer, a service, an agreement. And obviously, if they deemed you have a certain vulnerability, then there's a duty to make sure the correct advocacy is available. It's important to remember, never, ever agree to meet anybody, nowadays especially, unless you have an independent advocate that you can trust. Be very careful how whether in my area or different towns and cities, is they offer a care at advocacy. Depending where you live, their contracts, how it works, again, with, in my area, can only relate to the terms and reference of contracts with this county council with advocacy is not independent. I knew that straight away a few months ago. So my requirement to change to an individual, I know I won't quite get what I require if it's something better than nothing sometimes, but also it's setting their own, it's using their own constitution basically. Back to the individuals meant to be making sure their duty of care for individuals, the public, in their circumstances. But with the cutbacks the way they are, it's a smokescreen, because what my friends that downloaded the document earlier saw was the amount of public funds used in this area for private, nothing new I'm sure, private PPI contracts. And the biggest one in this area in adult health is Sure Healthcare Limited. And that's a national company. Now, as the weather keeps changing, I just got a notification again. I've got to cut this short. It's just not just pointing out about Northamptonshire County Council, but it's also reference to look up, if you live in UK, United Kingdom, your town or city, check out if you have a similar situation, or loved ones got a similar situation, check out the Constitution, and in line with Health and Social Care Statute National Act 2012, Section 196, it's worth to download and just even get someone to assist you if you can't do it yourself to read up. And that is a national statutory duty on the local county councils on your joint needs assessments. And when they breach that code, and for example, it's now 12 weeks delay from the last offer date, and that was 23rd Friday, November. I made a video, go back on my channel, you'll see that, what happened that day. And that was a Friday, horrendous. It was deliberate, by the way, horrendous experience. And that wasn't to complete the needs assessment that I was promised. And I'm still left without response from a social worker or a care advocate. And now we are, the date of Wednesday, the 23rd of January 2019, when the cold weather's hit, and I will be housebound anyway, so I can't get out. Thank God for tin food. No joke, I tell you. And so, yeah, so that's just a bit of information today. I hope you are well, and similar position to you're coping the best you can. So this is where I just end this by saying, just be aware, if their eyes, and they need to get all the facts right, if they see your situation is very costly, very highly complex, in their terminology, by the way, because you know yourself what your situation is, and your loved ones do. So that is where it's crucial to rebut any misinformation or disinformation by any civil servant on behalf of the subject on the adult health social care side. I've already done this before, and when you rebut something that's not factual in their eyes, they have to come back and correct their records. So, by the way, to access your records, good luck. I tried that before, 3 times, 3 lots of that £10 before previous years, and they blocked all my data, and they're still doing it. So just have a common sense, perhaps, approach about what your situation may be, but don't let them off the hook, because they are our public servants. They work for the public, and they have a constitution. In the county council, and same as I said with the borough council, we'll be dealing with the other subject on housing, for example. God bless, keep safe. It's just information to share if it helps. Okay, take care. Hopefully you keep warm with some precision.